It's just my opinion, but the movie's better than the series. To be completely honest, I didn't even realize this was an unpopular opinion until I got into a debate about it recently. I thought everybody knew the movie was better. I guess I was wrong. I knew that some people had issues with how the movie made the ending of the first book the ending of the third one, but other than that, I didn't hear any negativity about it. And I know that's taking some liberties with the source material, but that's not always a bad thing. See this video. But then when the Netflix series came out, everybody said, oh, it's so amazing, so much better than that sucky movie. Since when? I've always thought the movie was great and the show is So to compare the two different versions, I've set up a few different categories to compete in. Category 1. Casting. I think Violet and Klaus in both versions are pretty interchangeable. They both look the part, sound the part, act the part, they're pretty much the same. But if I had to choose a side, and I do, I would go with the movie. They're Hollywood level actors instead of a Netflix series level actor. Next up is Mr. Poe. I love K. Todd Freeman, I love Timothy Spall, they're both great actors. But the character of Mr. Poe is kind of an idiot who misses all the signs and never listens to the kids about anything.
We don't know Count Olaf.
Yes, of course you do. He's either your third cousin 4 times removed or your fourth cousin 3 times removed.
Timothy Spall is great at those kind of characters. K. Todd Freeman is a great actor, but this is a total miscast. Next up, we've got the role of Lemony Snicket, played by Jude Law in the movie and Patrick Warburton in the show. Right off the bat, those are two completely different kinds of actors again. In the movie, we've got a very mysterious, elegant character, and in the show, we've got Patrick Warburton. It's a pretty big difference here. Jude Law makes it feel like a mystery. Sure, it's a kid-friendly family film, but he brings an elegance to it.
My name is Lemony Snicket, and it is my sad duty to document this tale.
And I love Patrick Warburton again in the right roles, but this is another total miscast. When he gives me the definition of words, it feels like he's on Sesame Street reading off of a cue card or something.
The story of the Baudelaire orphans is so upsetting and so utterly unnerving. The entire crew is suffering from low morale, a phrase which here means currently under medical observation for melancholia, ennui, and acute wistfulness.
Now onto the side characters. You have Billy Connolly, who does great as Uncle Monty, and you have multi-Oscar winner Meryl Streep. Nobody in the show is Oscar-worthy in any way. And lastly, we've got the Count Olafs. In the movie, we of course have Jim Carrey, and the show Neil Patrick Harris, who understandably give us two very different versions of the character. Jim Carrey's version tells a lot of jokes which made people annoyed because Count Olaf wasn't funny in the books.
I've been bitten 43,700 times, mostly on the face. A lot of this has been reconstructed, but I think they did one heck of a job, even though my mustache is a tad askew.
But Neil Patrick Harris's character tries just as hard to be funny, but just isn't as funny.
When the sand runs out, that fortune is mine. I didn't realize the sand went so quickly. I bought it online. You're gonna need to flip it a couple of times.
Jim Carrey's version has a depth to it that could be in a much more adult movie and not seem out of place.
You all saw it. The boy slipped.
Neil Patrick Harris's version doesn't go beyond a little kids show villain. There's no depth to it, there's no realness to it, it's just, meh, I'm bad. Which takes me into the next category. Category 2. Tone and pacing. The entirety of the Netflix series felt like it was filmed in front of a green screen trying to emulate the movie. Because it was. The movie had a very unique and specific tone that it came up with specifically for this movie. It was very stylistic, very unique and different. Another knock on the movie is that they crammed 3 books all into one movie. Surely they can do much better in a TV series where they have multiple episodes to work through this, right? In theory, yeah. But they don't! In the movie, they have multiple complete character arcs with the 2 main characters. At the end of the movie, we're completely satisfied with where these characters have come from and where they are now. Despite the fact we're missing out on 10 more whole books, we're satisfied with this story arc. The pacing is great. They handle all of the plots that they deal with perfectly. In the series, they have all this extra time, yet it still feels rushed somehow. And other parts feel dragged out unnecessarily. How are they afforded so much extra time, yet the characters are underdeveloped? That doesn't make any sense. That's terrible pacing and terrible writing. A big knock against the movie, as I mentioned, was there were too many jokes. But the jokes were all dark. It fit the tone of the series. The extra humor helped set up Jim Carrey's Count Olaf as a manic villain.
I'm going to get you no matter where you go, no matter what you do, I'll find you. You are so deceived.
Take them, Mr. Poe. before I lose it big time.
Not to mention that the movie knew exactly when to take a step back and be serious, like with Uncle Monty, or be terrifying, like with the Lacrimose Leeches. But everything in the series came off as childish, immature, and just goofy. There was nothing scary about it, nothing serious about it. It was just dumb and weird.
In all honesty, I prefer long-form television to the movies. It's so much more convenient to consume entertainment from the comfort of your own home.
Do you have a hall pass? I didn't think so.
Also, Thomas Newman's score is just fantastic as usual. It was Oscar nominated for a good reason. Category 3. Adaptation changes. Like I said at the beginning, there were changes made during the adaptation process, and that's normal, that happens in every adaptation. But like I said in the previous video, it matters why you change what you change. It's about the heart behind the change. The changes made in the movie were for two main reasons. One was so that everything could fit better into a movie format, with the ending being how it was instead of how it was in the books. It made it feel like everything came full circle and had a definitive ending because they were afraid they'd never get a sequel, which they never did. And the other changes, like I mentioned about the humor, were made in the spirit of the original series. They added conversations, they added jokes that added to the depth of these characters so we understood the characters better. In the series, however, nothing added, taken away, or changed at all felt important in any way. It just felt like it was changed for the sake of it being changed. It didn't matter. It just felt like a low quality, low budget remake. And it kind of was. Ever since the original movie, people wanted a sequel. People were asking for a sequel, but it never really happened due to budget and due to the kids growing up too fast and Jim Carrey being busy and not being one to do sequels very often. So when the demand came in and the budget was actually reached for a new series of unfortunate events, Jim Carrey was no longer on board. The kids were too old now and they had to start over. So they were essentially remaking the movie, but packaging it so that it was more accurate. But it wasn't really. All in all, it's just a cheapened version of the movie that's not as good in any way, shape, or form. It lost in every category. Worse casting, worse writing, worse production, worse everything. But that's just my opinion. My unpopular opinion. I'm Simon from Simon's Rants. That was my rant for today.
Children are strange and foreign to me. I never really was one. I know that they are an important part of the ecosystem.